Okay, guys. We are live. So, I want to say welcome back for anyone who was on last week's live stream. It was our first one, and we did say that we were creating the Discord channel. The Discord channel, I told you guys that I'm going to be giving out signals in the members area. So, here you can see the members area. I had the bias for last week, and this is what we were looking at. So, we're looking at USD pairs, Euro pairs, Canadian pairs, and AUD pairs. Looking at DXY to go higher. We didn't really have a bias on AUD. We didn't have a bias on Canadian or on Euro because they were very, very choppy, right? So for the week, it was during the stream that I gave this setup. If you guys took this setup, you would currently be in profits. This is a very good setup. It's currently still moving toward the target. I will show it again when I get back to trading view. We also had this setup during the week. This was on Monday. We had this trade on Euro USD. I had a market execution sell. Um, we also had this oil that we were looking at during the live stream, but this actually happened at about 12 in the night. I was asleep, so I didn't get to capitalize on it to send it out. Later in the week, EU pushed down very aggressively. We came down to these lows. At this point, I told the team to send all the orders on EU to break even. You can see that we took some drawdown right here, and we hit TP on Wednesday. On Wednesday, TP was hit on EU. So whoever took these trades currently on our signals, we are practically up 100%, which is really, really nice. I'm gonna move you guys over to Forex Factory right now. Let's start looking at the markets for the week. Let's see. Make sure that the screen capture is working properly. Oh, one second, guys. Let me actually see what's happening here. No. I'm actually just realizing that Discord is not the one that is currently on. Okay, there we go. So like I was saying, guys, these are the trades that were taken last week. So this was given out on the Sunday. This was given out on Monday. This happened overnight. We went to break even on Tuesday, and then we hit TP on Wednesday, which was really good. So moving over to Forex Factory. All right, so here we can see the week is pretty much filled with news. Now, I'm going to be looking for setups on Euro pairs, on US pairs, US pairs specifically only Monday, because we have one of the big three news events, FOMC, on Wednesday. Now, when you have these news events, you tend to not have volatility in the market the day before and the day of. You generally don't want to be trading on the day before or the day of this news event. You want to be trading after the news event has happened. So when it comes to USD pairs, I will trade them on Monday if I do get a setup. After that, I will only trade them after 2 p.m. on the Wednesday. That's when I'll be looking for entries after this news event happens. Because if this news event doesn't happen, I won't be looking for any trades. Okay. We're also going to be looking at AUD and Euro. So let's get straight into the analysis. All right. Now we're looking at the DXY. So for last week, we did expect higher prices, which we did get on the monthly. The overall look of price hasn't changed much at all. On the weekly, we do see that we have this bullish fair value gap right here. This would be more of a breakaway gap in my personal opinion, but Looking at the way that price has created this indecisive candle last week, we could potentially come back into this. It wouldn't be the greatest thing to see. I believe if we do come back into this, we'll probably end up trading lower. This is not this is not the most ideal place of price to retrace to, considering it's so very close to these highs, right? And these highs are the overall target on the weekly. On the daily, we can see that this current price leg, so we had price action like this, has been very mitigating a lot. So price came back, mitigated, went up, we ran this high, came back, mitigated, went up. We kind of swept this high, but we did have a fair value gap. We came back down and then we went up. Now in this current leg, we have no fair value gap, right? So if price does decide to trade lower, we could see that this low gets taken and price come into this weekly. If price decides to trade higher, then we could just see price move higher from wherever, maybe from the 4 hour. I don't really use the 4 hour for analysis, so I'm not gonna do any analysis of that. But practically on the daily, we are currently in a range because this current leg has no fair value gap, which means it's a weak leg, which means price could just cut straight through to the bottom. So, in other words, on the USD pairs, I have no clear bias. We have no clear bias for this week, which would make this week a bit lower probability. So keep that in mind when you are trading, that this week is a bit more of a low probability week compared to last week. So you might see a lot more choppiness, a lot more random moves in the market, maybe some seek and destroy conditions. And that would be in sync with the news that we have for this week, actually, because I believe we do have NFP this week as well. So it's FOMC and NFP. Let me actually double check. Yeah, we actually have FOMC and NFP this week, which are two very big news events. So it would make sense that the dollar and the US dollar is very, very choppy during this time. Looking at AU, we're still in the very same range on the monthly. So we haven't traded above this high. We're still trading within this candle. On the weekly, we look like we are rejecting this high, but we're still pointing higher. We do have this fair value gap right here, very small fair value gap sitting right here. On the daily, we were looking for higher prices of AU, which we were looking for from here. Monday traded back into this. Tuesday, Monday swept Friday. Monday swept Friday, and we took out this high. So we practically achieved the context because we took out the low and then we took out the high. So right now AU is practically also in some seek and destroy conditions. There is no straight bias that we can pull from this because this fair value gap has already been used up. The fair value gap was used up from the time that price tapped into it here. But we can see that we have price sweeping this low right here, which means the price could potentially go for this high, right? This is not the highest probability price action, so nothing clear to trade from here. So we're gonna put on this as well, no clear bias. I'm gonna throw these charts into my Discord while we do this. Now for Euro USD, this is the trade that we took last week. So as you can see, we did have some drawdown and then eventually we did hit our target. So going over the overall structure of EU, actually let me close this second chart. Right, going over the overall structure of EU, we can see that we are practically consolidating on the monthly. We did reject from this candle high, which is why we've been moving lower. On the weekly, we can see why price did create that leg on the daily because we do have a fair value gap here that we are drawing into. Now the reason why this is a fair value gap and not a breakaway gap is because price did not trade below this low. right? And it gives me a bit more confidence that we're gonna trade into this and potentially go lower. We'll yet to see if we will go lower because we have swept these two weekly lows and started to move higher, right? So we could potentially see that Euro USD comes into this weekly fair value gap and then continues lower. This would be, in my opinion, a very nice setup to have. So overall, I would say that we're bearish on Euro pairs. We have no bias on AUD pairs, and we also have no clear bias on USD pairs. Actually, tuck this into my bearish. All right. On the daily, as you can see, is the same thing as DXY. This is a very low probability leg lower, so it wouldn't be anything strange that price does cut through all this price action to get into this weekly fair value gap and then move lower. If we do get into that weekly fair value gap, I will be looking to the 4 hour for entries, but we will see how the situation develops as the week goes on. Looking at GBP USD, we have a similar situation of price sweeping the previous month high. On the weekly, we have no fair value gaps going lower. We do have this fair value gap to the left that price has already consumed. So currently, if we do have to trade higher, it would be from one of these candles lows, but the fair value gap is no longer relevant. So I would say that we don't really have a clear bias of the weekly. On the daily, we did close out this fair value gap. So this is not the highest probability price action. I'll probably just wait for more price action on Geo to look for some trades on NZD USD. On the monthly, we are rejecting these highs. On the weekly, we did come into what looks like a weekly fair value gap last week. We have rejected very nicely. Let's see if the trade has already played out. So this would have actually been a trade that played out on a Friday, on Wednesday as well. So here's what would have happened here. We had no NZD news last week. The price did come into this PY on a Wednesday, and then if I was to execute, I would have executed here with my stop loss below here. No, below here. This would have caused me to get stopped out, and then we can see that price has created another 4 hour fair value gap coming out of this zone. So considering that this zone was tapped into on Friday, I would wait for more confirmation, as in either a daily fair value gap higher, or I'll wait for price to actually sweep this and then give me a 4 hour fair value gap higher before I move higher. So this would probably be what I'm looking for if I were to trade NZD USD. On the daily, we don't have any bearish value gaps going against us apart from up here, which was already used by this candle. So if price does move higher, we literally have a smooth area to sail higher. All these highs here should get taken out if we are continuing in the weekly direction. In USD Chef, we do have this monthly fair value gap right here that we're currently respecting. On the weekly, we seem like we're forming a fair value gap right here, so it's possible, it's potential that this week is either a consolidation week or an expansion week on USD Chef. I was actually looking at this fair value gap right here for an entry, but because we were already in AUD Chef, I decided not to engage this. Um, Currently, we have this price leg higher and this fair value gap right here. It's more of a breakaway gap, so let's see. We've already taken out this high and we are rejecting, so it's a potential that we do come back into this fair value gap, to this breakaway gap, and see a reaction from here. So we're gonna mark this off. USD CAD is pretty much consolidating. We took out the high of this candle, which kind of means that we're trying to go lower. We've still got the high of this candle as well. We did move lower. Now we have a very long wick at the bottom of this weekly candle, kind of stating that we are not ready to take out these lows. On the daily, we have no fair value gaps to trade from, so I'm gonna just leave this alone until it looks a bit better. USD JPY, we're currently moving higher on the monthly. See that seen as we're creating a fair value gap here once more. On the weekly, we do have a breakaway gap right here. It's not something that we want price to return into, but it's always a potential. On the daily, we have a fair value gap right here that price has already traded into on Friday. So I wouldn't look to engage price from here. I would look for price to create a new fair value gap higher and then retrace and then go back up. That's what I would like to see on UJ. So I'm gonna put it in, flag it up so I can just monitor it during the week. On gold, we still have this monthly POI right here that we're looking to get back into. On the weekly, there's really nothing to say. It's just consolidation. On the daily, we have been trying to push lower into this POI, but we seem to be engineering a ton of liquidity. So people who are buying gold, thinking that will go higher, are creating all these potential fake bottoms. As you can see, price is literally not going anywhere. And if you look at price action very well, you can see the size of the down candles versus the size of the up candles. So look at how fast the market is moving down versus the market is actually going up, signaling that the institutions are really not ready to buy this. Because if the institutions are ready to buy this, it's going to look like a very, very aggressive move. Right? Institutions move the markets very aggressively like this. This is how institutions move the markets with very big candles in one direction. Now, this states that the institutions are not ready to move gold higher. They are definitely pushing gold lower into this monthly, but they are not ready to move gold higher at all because here we can see that. Let me get my time and price to, where is it? Oh, 1 second, guys. Let me get the time and price to. There we go. Here we can see that in one candle we push down almost 10,000 pips, and in these 10 candles, 8 candles actually, 10 days, we only covered about 765 pips, right? Back up, and we didn't even take this. We ended up back into this order block and we dropped again. So I am definitely not looking to buy gold as yet. We don't have any fair value gaps higher. I do believe that the market is drawing into this monthly to move higher. So we're gonna just wait for gold. I'm gonna actually set a lot on here. Gold is something where we just wait, sit on our hands and wait. Now silver has a similar thing to gold. So we do have this monthly breakaway gap down here, which we probably might not come back into. I'm gonna have to take on this line. We probably may not come back into this. On the weekly, we have come into the overlapping defense for this, which was here, and we did trade through it. Currently, we are basically very indecisive on the weekly. We're in this fair value gap, and the market has been quite indecisive. It doesn't know where to go or where not to go. So we're wicking all around. Not the price action that we want to trade in if you're a trending trader. If you are a main reversion trader, however, this would be the perfect price action for you. Right. On the daily, we can see that we created this bearish value gap on Thursday. We tapped it on Tuesday. We tapped into it on Thursday, and we swept the high on Friday. So potentially we move lower from here, but there's nothing for me to trade in this right now. So I'll just wait for more price action. Since we're in this fair value gap, price could potentially can lower and then back up and then continue moving like this. I'm gonna put it into my watch list so just so I can monitor it. Oil. Oil last week left without us, guys. So we took out these lows, which means we're moving higher on the monthly. Um, on the weekly, we do have this fair value gap right here, which oil can look to trade back into. This actually looks real nice. This fair value gap right here, we can use to trade back into. Price has actually swept this high as well, which is a good sign of price moving higher. I'm gonna set an alert right here. One second, I feel like my broker that I'm using for oil has an issue. One second. I remember using a broker for oil once, and like at some point it froze and the broker just stopped working. I'm gonna use TVC. Let's do this. Okay. Let me actually go ahead and delete that alert on this, and we're gonna mark it up from here. Okay, so like I was saying, oil on the weekly, as we can see, we have this fair value gap right here. We could probably trade back into this. It'd be very nice to see us trade back into this and then move higher. On the daily, it's very choppy, so there are no daily fair value gaps to trade back into. So oil could very easily just give us this to move higher. I definitely like this setup. I would participate in this setup if we were to get it. Now we're gonna look at some AUD pairs and some Euro pairs. So for AUD, we have no clear bias. I'm gonna look at the AUD pairs according to what they have instead of with a bias. Keep in mind that not having a bias for the pairs that you're looking at is automatically makes you a bit lower probability in what you're looking for, because each of the pairs could be doing something different. This is actually the swing on A chef that we're in currently. So we're still in this swing right here. Let me actually set this a bit down here. We haven't gone break even on it as yet, but we're still in this and currently riding a UD CAD. On the monthly, we can see that we are creating the fair value gap right here. So we're probably not going to trade back into that. The monthly is almost done as well. So in fact, the monthly candle is done. So we did create a monthly fair value gap right here. So there's a potential that we trade back into this. On the weekly is very choppy. There's a very high potential that we trade back into this because of the way that the weekly is moving. The daily is also very, very choppy. So this would practically be our only hope on AUD CAD to move higher to get a decent trade would be this monthly zone. All right, let me put this on AUD JPY. We're currently still moving higher on the monthly very strongly. On the weekly, same thing, moving higher. We created this breakaway gap right here. Price will potentially not trade back into this fair value gap if we are to continue higher. On the daily, we did trade back into this fair value gap already, and we are continuing higher. Potentially, Monday could give us a consolidation, and then Tuesday come back in for Wednesday to go higher. Would be nice. AUD NZD on the monthly, we realized that we were reacting from this. I was actually in this trade, the buy, and it has hit TP already. On the weekly, we can see that we have a breakaway gap right here. I don't think I would draw it out actually, but we do have a breakaway gap right here. Price should not come back into this if we are moving higher indeed. Um, we do have a fair value gap here that price could come back into and move higher from on EN. So we could definitely look for this next week to get some bullish price action out of here. Looking at EA. Now for Euro, considering that we have an overall bias of bearishness, overall bearish on Euro pairs, I would expect this to be overall bearish, which we are. We did sweep this low, creating a fair value gap on the monthly. On the weekly, we have no fair value gaps in this leg to trade from. So if we are to move higher, with regards to the weekly, we will probably end up taking out this high. On the daily, we did trade into this fair value gap, this overlapping last week, and it did give us a nice trade lower. The reason that I didn't take this one is because Euro USD gave the 2 to 1 R&R, so I was in Euro USD instead. I actually almost sent out this trade, but then I realized that we had two overlapping trades, so I didn't send it out. Currently on the daily, we have nothing to trade from, so we're probably just waiting for more price action of this for now. And Euro CAD on the monthly, we have set this high, and we look like we want to move lower. On the weekly, we do have this breakaway gap up here that price should not necessarily come back into if it is to move lower. Um, on the daily, we have nothing to trade from. We already came back into this fair value gap and we're currently practically consolidating. So there isn't much to look at. Um, if we need to do anything, we probably need a daily fair value gap lower and then a retracement into that to continue trading lower. On your chef, you can see I said need daily fair value gap for direction. The reason for this is because we were coming off a monthly. As you can see, we're coming off a monthly fair value gap right here, and then we had a weekly fair value gap opposing that monthly fair value gap, right? So this would be our first line of defense on this time frame, that weekly fair value gap. Um, give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. Let me just. All right, sorry about that, guys. I got a call. So you don't want to see resistance when price comes into your zone. So on a monthly, we have no resistance. Well, we do now in the form of this potential monthly fair value gap. On the weekly, we did have this fair value gap as resistance. So this would be the first line of resistance into this monthly. Now, in order to validate that price does not want to move lower of this weekly and disrespect this monthly, we were waiting for a daily fair value gap for direction. So now I can take off this weekly because a daily fair value gap was formed in the weekly fair value gap moving higher, stating that price does indeed want to move higher. Therefore, I would be looking for, in fact, I believe Euro is overall bearish. Well, with Euro being overall bearish, actually, I will not be looking for buys on this week. Let's see, the overlapping defense is actually here. So this is our overlapping defense. This is where the breaker block started. So this is the breaker. So it's a potential that price does come back into this breaker to trade lower. If we are looking for lower prices, that is. All right. This would actually make more sense. Okay. So in keeping with lower prices on your USD, you would want price to actually come up into this weekly on Eurochef and then trade lower. For now, I don't believe that price will get into here this week, but we're gonna set the alert and we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait to see what happens. Alright, on EG, we're also looking for lower prices. On the monthly, we can see that the monthly candle did close with a large rejection, but it didn't really reject off anything. On the weekly, we have come back into this weekly fair value gap, but we have not reacted to it from what I see. On the daily, we just swept this high. We have no fair value gaps going higher, which makes all of this low resistance liquidity. Could potentially see a very strong move down to these lows on EG, considering that euro is weak and we're looking for lower prices. I would actually pretty much, very, very much like to see this sell off. So, in order to trade this, what I would be looking for would be we actually tapped into this here. We took this high here. Let's see, did that Monday have euro news? 1 second, guys. That Monday did have euro news. Last week, if I was to trade this, I would have actually taken a loss because I would have probably executed this sell right here. Actually, I believe the reason that we didn't take this is because we were in Euro USD, right? Price came into this firstly here. We had a 4 hour value gap here, and this would have been the entry right here, the stop loss above this, which would have obviously gotten taken out, right? Currently, price is back in this. If I want to trade this from the 4 hour, I would need price to actually take this high out and then move lower. If I want to trade this from the daily, which would probably be safer to trade it from, would wait for a daily fair value gap lower and then trade when that is created, right? So I'm actually put in here. Right. Okay. Um, Euro JPY expecting overall bearish prices in euro, so I can already see that I don't really want to trade this. We have a breakaway gap right here. On the daily, we have nothing to indicate any bearishness. Euro NZD, we have this monthly fair value gap lower right here. On the weekly, we have nothing preventing us from coming into this, so more than likely price will come into this fair value gap. On the daily, we have no fair value gaps higher to trade up into this, but we have a lot of low resistance liquidity. So it's very possible that we tap into this and we take out all these lows, all this low resistance liquidity, because institutions currently are not in the market right now. The market is moving very, very slowly. Because look at how fast the market came down in 4 candles, and then it's been since the 14th of June, this entire month has been just very, very lethargic price action. So this is where you can tell the difference between the institutions moving price and just lethargic price action. So institutions always go and they go fast. This is a pair that gives you a very good example of what that looks like, right? Like right here. This is like a big consolidation. So this and this are very similar. When price comes back into this monthly, there's a very high chance that it does trade down and trade down very aggressively. So we're gonna see if we can end up participating in this. GBP we came very, very close to taking out this low, but we didn't quite get there. On the weekly, we do have this breakaway gap right here. Actually, it's a fair value gap because price did not close below. Price did definitely a wick very high up here. So we have this breakaway gap here that we are looking at. On the daily, we have no fair value gaps to trade from. It's very, very likely that price does take out this low and then does probably come back into this. But we will see what happens with price action as the week goes on. I will set an alert on here, put it into the watch list so we can monitor it. So all that's left to do now is just go over the watch list. Going over the watch list, we can see that we have this on EU, this weekly that we want to trade lower from, leading to us wanting overall lower prices on EU. It would be very nice to get a trade into this and then a trade lower. Keeping in mind that Euro USD pairs this week are low probability, so we don't really want to have too much participation or too much exposure to them. Looking at Euro Chef, practically got Euro pairs in the watch list though. Looking at Euro CHF, we are looking for price to come into that weekly as well. It may not happen this week. I'm not expecting that it happens this week. If price does create a weekly fair value gap right here, I will not trade. I will not trade out of this weekly fair value gap. We will be needing more confirmation. Okay? Because we don't want a weekly fair value gap going into a weekly fair value gap. That does not indicate weakness. That indicates current strength in the current price leg. On Euro GBP, we are currently in this weekly leg right here. We have tapped into it, rejected, and then taken out this high, which means that we were not ready to move lower. I would say let's not trade off the 4 hour, but let's wait for a daily fair value gap lower because that would be the safer move, the safer play. Euro NZD, it's very choppy over here. On the monthly, we do have this fair value gap lower. We haven't had a fair value gap on this on the monthly for a while. On the weekly, we look like we are very much trading back into this. On the daily, we have low resistance liquidity below our lows. So if price does come back into this, it could be a very nice trade lower. GA, not looking for too much on GA. The monthly is overall bearish, weekly overall bearish. Just looking to see if price does decide to come back into this weekly fair value gap this week, which is possible but may not happen at all. So overall, the week is pretty much low probability. We don't have too much looking at. Looking at UJ, actually, I'm gonna take this one off the watch list because in order for this to be a trade, Monday would have to expand higher. Tuesday would have to expand higher to create a fair value gap, and then Wednesday would have to trade back into Tuesday. And considering I'm not trading Tuesday or Wednesday this week due to CPI and FOMC, due to FOMC and MFP, I I would not be actually looking at this for those type of trades. Called silver, sorry. For silver to give us a setup, you will need to practically paint one candle lower. Then on Tuesday paint another candle, create a fair value gap. Then on Wednesday come back into that candle. So it's kind of predicting the next 3 days if we do want to trade lower on silver. I'm gonna keep it in the watch list for now. Oil definitely looks quite beautiful. So oil has been trading higher. We did sweep this high, right? And sorry, we did run this high. Why would I say that we run this high? Because we traded above this high with a fair value gap, right? If you are sweeping liquidity, you normally don't have a fair value gap in the leg or above the high where you're sweeping the liquidity. Let's see if I can get a example of this for you guys on oil. Let me actually look at a different pair. Bring me the example of a liquidity. So this would be a liquidity sweep. So you see price is trading above this high, but price never really gets above the high or creates a fair value gap above the high. But this is a liquidity run. So price trades above this high, you have a fair value gap, price comes back into the fair value gap, then price continues higher. Right? So this is looking like a liquidity run as of right now, which is why I'm saying that price could trade back into this and this could be a very nice trade higher. AUD CAD. I'm looking at the monthly for this one. Again, price did run liquidity right here. So we have a liquidity run. This is very similar to the weekly on oil. It actually looks like the very same setup, as you can see. Price action repeats itself across time frames. Price would come back into this, which is what we're hoping for, and then a move higher. AJ overall bullish. Um, Looking for Monday to create a candle higher potentially, then Tuesday can potentially start back into this fair value gap and give us a trade higher. AN, we would actually look for it to trade lower into this because we're currently on the buy side of this market maker model. We entered this fair value gap, which means our current target on the monthly is this high, right? So currently we're trading the buy side of the market maker model because the sell side is over here. This is your original consolidation. We're currently targeting this. So if we get a trade here, we should be very comfortably trading to this high. So this is what we're looking at for the week, guys. Um, those of you in the Discord, in the signals group, I'm gonna be sending out signals as the day goes, as the week goes by. Sorry. Any trades that I do take, I will send to you guys. Those of you on the YouTube, this has been the forecast for the week. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm gonna go ahead with ending the stream, and that's gonna be it for today, guys. All right, have a wonderful one.